The October morning broke cold and gray over Seattle, Washington. Heavy clouds hung low over Boeing Field, threatening rain that would arrive by noon. Inside Hangar 7 of Cascade Aviation Services, the fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting harsh shadows across the concrete floor, stained with decades of oil and hydraulic fluid. Marcus Chen had been an aircraft maintenance supervisor for 15 years. At 42, he'd seen everything, or so he thought. He stood near the disassembled Pratt & Whitney turbofan engine, its massive components spread across 3 workbenches like the organs of some mechanical giant. The engine belonged to a Boeing 737 that needed to be back in service within 72 hours, and the pressure was on. "Marcus, got a minute?" He turned to see Tom Davidson, the facility manager, walking toward him with a young woman. She couldn't have been more than 26, maybe 27. Dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail, steel-toed boots that looked brand new, and bright green eyes that scanned the hangar with unmistakable excitement. "This is Riley Patterson," Tom said. "Just transferred from our San Diego facility. She's got her A&P license, top marks in turbine specialization. Thought she'd be perfect for the Delta team overhaul." Marcus felt his jaw tighten. The Delta overhaul was the most complex job in the hangar, a complete teardown and rebuild of a CFM56 engine. It required precision, experience, and physical strength. He'd handpicked his team of 4 mechanics, all with at least 10 years of experience. "Tom, we're already staffed for Delta," Marcus said carefully, "and we're on a tight deadline." "Riley comes highly recommended," Tom insisted. "Give her a shot." Riley extended her hand. "Mr. HN, I know I'm new here, but I've logged over 3,000 hours on turbofan engines. I specialized in the CFM56 series at my previous 3,000 hours? Marcus interrupted, not taking her hand. "I've got guys on my team with 15,000. This isn't San Diego weather we're dealing with. Winter's coming. Equipment fails differently in the cold. Tolerances change." "I understand that, sir. I'm a fast learner." "This isn't about learning," Marcus cut her off again, his voice harder now. The other mechanics had stopped working, watching the exchange. "Look, no offense, but engine overhaul is brutal work. Those turbine discs weigh 80 pounds each. The fan blades require torque specs that'll wrench your arm out of socket if you're not careful. You can't handle a jet engine. Not this kind of work." The words hung in the air like smoke. Riley's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. Not hurt, but something sharper. Determination, maybe, or anger. Tom's face reddened. "Marcus, it's fine," Riley said quietly, her voice steady. "I understand Mr. Chen's concerns." She looked directly at Marcus. "But I'm here to work, and I'm not afraid of heavy lifting or difficult conditions. If you give me a chance, I'll prove myself." Marcus shook his head. "I'm responsible for this team's safety and productivity. I can't risk an inexperienced mechanic on a critical deadline." He turned to Tom. "Put her on routine inspections with the Charlie team. They're doing line maintenance, oil changes, filter replacements, that kind of thing." "Marcus!" Tom started. "That's my call," Marcus said firmly. "My hangar, my team, my decision." Riley stood there for a moment, her face unreadable. Then she nodded once, curtly. "Understood, sir." She turned and walked toward the Charlie team station on the far side of the hangar, her boots echoing on the concrete. Tom waited until she was out of earshot. "You know that was borderline discriminatory, right?" "I said nothing about her being a woman," Marcus protested. "I talked about experience and physical requirements. That's job-related criteria." "You didn't even look at her credentials," Tom said. "She graduated top of her class at Embry-Riddle. She's certified on 7 different engine types. She bench presses 160 for crying out loud. The San Diego supervisor told me she's the best mechanic he's ever trained." Marcus felt a flicker of uncertainty, but pushed it down. "Then she'll do great on line maintenance." "Look, Tom, I'm not trying to be difficult, but I've built my reputation on delivering quality work on time. I can't afford problems right now." We've got the Delta contract, we've got the United inspection coming up, and I've got corporate breathing down my neck about efficiency ratings. Just think about it, Tom said. Give her a real chance. That's all I'm asking. He walked away, leaving Marcus standing alone by the turbofan engine. The rest of the day passed in a blur of work. Marcus focused on the Delta overhaul, directing his team through the meticulous process of inspecting each component. Jake Morrison, his lead mechanic, found stress cracks in 2 turbine blades. They'd need replacements ordered overnight. Sarah Kim discovered scoring on the combustion chamber liner that would require remachining. Every problem added hours to the timeline. By 6 p.m., Marcus's back ached, and his hands were black with grease despite the gloves. Most of the crew had gone home, but he stayed, reviewing the inspection reports under the harsh fluorescent lights. Burning the midnight oil. He looked up to see Riley approaching. She'd changed out of her work coveralls into jeans and a fleece jacket, her hair down now, softening her features. She carried a tablet under one arm. "Just finishing up paperwork," Marcus said neutrally. "How was your first day?" "Informative," Riley said. She stopped a respectful distance away, not pushing into his space. "The Charlie team showed me around, explained your standard procedures. I changed oil on 6 aircraft, replaced 4 air filters, and did pre-flight inspections on 11 planes." "Good," Marcus said, turning back to his reports. "Sounds productive. I also noticed something." Marcus looked up again, annoyed. "What?" Riley glanced around the empty hangar, then stepped closer. "The Delta engine you're overhauling, the CFM56 7B27. I saw the intake measurements on the report board. Your fan blade tip clearances are outside spec." Marcus felt his temper flare. "Excuse me? The clearances," Riley said, pulling up something on her tablet. "Specification calls for 0.025 to 0.0045 inches. Your measurements show 0.052 on 3 blades. That's going to cause efficiency loss and potential vibration issues when the engine spins up to cruise RPM. "I know the specifications," Marcus said coldly. "Those measurements were taken at 68 degrees ambient. When the engine heats up to operating temperature, thermal expansion brings those clearances into range." "Not according to the thermal coefficient for that alloy," Riley said, turning the tablet so he could see. She'd pulled up the technical manual, with expansion calculations showing her math. "Even at operating temp, you're going to be 0.008 inches over spec. The engine will pass ground testing, but develop problems at altitude." As Marcus stared at the screen, his mind racing through the calculations. She was right. Damn it, she was right. He'd made those measurements himself yesterday, and he'd factored in thermal expansion, but he'd used the wrong coefficient. He'd used the spec for the older 7B24 model, not the 7B27. He started, then stopped. Pride warred with professional integrity. "I'll recheck the measurements tomorrow." "I already did," Riley said quietly. "I measured them during my lunch break. You'll need to shim the mounting brackets by 0.010 inches to bring everything into tolerance. It'll add maybe 4 hours to the rebuild, but it'll save you from having that engine come back with a performance complaint." She met his eyes directly. No smugness, no triumph, just straightforward professionalism. Marcus set down his pen slowly. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because it's the right thing to do," Riley said simply. "Because that plane is going to be carrying passengers, and their safety matters more than proving a point. And because," she paused, choosing her words carefully, "because I want to be part of a team that does excellent work. I can't do that if I stay quiet when I see a problem." The hangar felt very quiet suddenly, just the hum of the lights and the distant sound of a jet taking off from Boeing Field. "The shimming will put us behind schedule," Marcus said. "Better behind schedule than having an engine fail," Riley replied. "But I think I can help make up the time, if you'll let me." Marcus looked at her, really looked at her this time, past the assumptions he'd made that morning, past his defensive pride. He saw competence, confidence, and a genuine desire to do the job right. "The turbine disc assembly," he said slowly. "Third stage compressor. Can you handle the bolt torque sequence? 48 bolts, pattern sequence starting at 12 o'clock, working in crisscross pattern, Riley recited. Torque to 65 foot-pounds dry, verify with ultrasonic testing for tension. I've done it 200 times. Marcus made a decision that felt like stepping off a cliff. Be here at 6 a.m. tomorrow, he said. Bring your A-game. You're on the Delta team. For the first time that day, Riley smiled. Not a triumphant grin, but a quiet, grateful expression. Thank you, Mr. Chen. You won't regret it. Call me Marcus, he said, and Patterson. Riley, she corrected. Riley, he acknowledged. You were right about the clearances. Good catch. Just doing the job, she said. Then she left, disappearing into the October night. Marcus sat alone in the hangar for a long time, staring at the calculations on her tablet. He thought about his words that morning. You can't handle a jet engine. He'd been so certain, so quick to judge. Maybe, he thought, he was the one who needed to learn something. He picked up his phone and texted Jake Morrison. Team meeting 6 a.m. We've got a new member and some corrections to make. Going to be a long week. Then he shut off the lights and headed home, where the rain had finally started to fall, washing the streets of Seattle clean. The morning arrived with typical Pacific Northwest dreariness, a persistent drizzle that turned Boeing Field into a patchwork of puddles reflecting grey sky. Marcus arrived at 5:30, coffee in hand, to find Riley already in the hangar. She stood by the Delta engine, studying the assembly manual on her tablet, her coveralls crisp and clean, her hair tied back in that practical ponytail again. You're early, Marcus said, surprised. Wanted to review the sequence before the team arrived, Riley said, looking up. I'm the new person. I need to work twice as hard to earn half the credibility. Marcus felt a pang of guilt. You shouldn't have to. But I do, Riley said simply, without bitterness. That's reality. I'm okay with it. By 6, the rest of the Delta team had assembled. Jake Morrison, 53, with graying temples and hands scarred from 30 years of aircraft maintenance. Sarah Kim, 38, brilliant with diagnostic equipment and possessing an almost supernatural ability to hear problems in engine sounds. David Rodriguez, 45, quiet and methodical, the best welder Marcus had ever worked with. They stood around the coffee maker looking skeptical when Marcus made the announcement. Riley Patterson is joining the Delta overhaul, Marcus said without preamble. She'll be working turbine assembly. Before anyone objects, she caught a critical measurement error I made yesterday. She knows her stuff. Jake raised an eyebrow. The tip clearances. You knew? Marcus asked, surprised. Noticed it this morning when I came in early, Jake admitted. Was going to mention it. Didn't realize the new kid spotted it first. I'm not a kid, Riley said mildly. I'm 27 and I've been working on jets since I was 18. No offense meant, Jake said, studying her with new interest. You really caught the clearance issue and calculated the thermal expansion coefficients to prove it, Marcus confirmed, which is more than I did. So let's park the egos and get to work. We're already behind schedule. The team exchanged glances, then Jake shrugged. Boss's call. Let's see what you got, Patterson. The work began in earnest. Marcus assigned Riley to work with Sarah on the compressor assembly, while he and Jake tackled the shimming corrections on the fan blade mounts. David set up his welding station to repair the combustion chamber scoring. So, Riley, Sarah said, as they prepared the third-stage compressor disc, what brings you to Seattle from sunny San Diego? Opportunity, Riley said, carefully aligning the disc on the assembly stand. The Seattle facility handles more wide-body aircraft. I want experience on the big engines, GE90s, Trent series, maybe even the GNX engines on the Dreamliners. Ambitious, Sarah observed. Most mechanics specialize in one or two types. I don't want to be most mechanics, Riley said. She picked up a turbine blade, examining it under the magnification lamp for cracks. I want to be the best. Sarah smiled. I like you already. Okay, hotshot, show me what you know. Blade installation sequence by the book. Riley worked with focused intensity, her movements precise and confident. She installed each blade according to the exact specifications, checking and rechecking her measurements. Sarah watched critically at first, then with growing respect. "You've done this before," Sarah said. "About 300 times," Riley replied, not looking up from her work. "Practiced on training engines in school, then did full overhauls in San Diego. The CFM56 is actually one of the easier engines once you understand the logic of the design." Across the hangar, Marcus watched while pretending to focus on his own work. Riley moved with the efficiency of experience, no wasted motion, no hesitation. When she encountered resistance on a bolt, she didn't force it. She backed off, checked the threads, applied anti-seize compound and tried again. Professional. Competent. "She's good," Jake said quietly, appearing beside Marcus. "Yeah," Marcus admitted. "You thought she couldn't handle it," Jake observed. "It wasn't a question." Marcus sighed. "I made assumptions, stupid ones." "We all do," Jake said. "The question is what you do after you realize you were wrong." He clapped Marcus on the shoulder. "For what it's worth, I think you made the right call bringing her on. We need good people, and good people come in all shapes and sizes." By lunch, Riley had completed the third-stage compressor assembly and found another problem. She called Marcus and Sarah over to her workstation. "Look at this," she said, pointing to one of the stator vans in the compressor section. "See that discoloration?" Marcus leaned in, squinting. There was a faint yellowing on the metal surface, barely visible. "Could just be heat staining from normal operation." "Could be," Riley agreed. "But the pattern's wrong. Heat staining should be uniform. This has streaking, which suggests oil contamination got past the bearing seal during operation." She pulled up a borescope image on her tablet, showing the interior of the bearing cavity. "See, there's carbon scoring. The bearing was running hot." Sarah whistled low. "If that bearing fails in flight, catastrophic engine failure." Marcus finished grimly. "Good eye, Riley. We'll need to replace the entire bearing assembly. That's another 8 hours. "Or," Riley said, "we could try something. I read a technical bulletin last month about a field repair procedure for exactly this kind of scoring. If we use a diamond-coated reaming bit and follow the KB447 procedure, we can clean up the scoring, install an oversized bearing, and be back within spec. It's approved by the FAA, and it'll save us 6 hours. Marcus pulled out his phone, looking up the technical bulletin. KB447. "Yeah, here it is. Have you done this before?" "No," Riley admitted. "But I've read the procedure 3 times and watched the training video. I can do it." Marcus thought about the timeline, the pressure from corporate, the risk of letting an untested mechanic attempt a critical repair. Then he thought about the measurement error she'd caught, the problem she'd just spotted, her calm confidence. "Okay," he said, "but I'm supervising every step. Jake, you too. If anything looks wrong, we stop and do it the long way." "Agreed," Riley said. They spent the next 4 hours on the repair. Riley worked with painstaking care, following the procedure exactly. She set up the reaming fixture, calibrated the depth stops, and began the delicate process of removing the damaged metal. Marcus and Jake watched like hawks, checking every measurement, but Riley never wavered. "Feed rate's good," Jake observed. "Nice and steady." "Depth is right on target," Marcus confirmed, checking the micrometer reading. When Riley finished, the bearing cavity was clean and smooth, ready for the oversized bearing. She installed it with the same meticulous precision she'd shown all day, torquing each bolt to exact specification. "Perfect," Sarah said, checking the final measurements. "Clearances are dead center of the acceptable range. That's textbook work, Riley." Riley pulled off her safety glasses, a sheen of sweat on her forehead despite the cool hangar air. "Thanks. That was intense. You just saved us 6 hours and about $5,000 in parts," Marcus said. "That's more than good work. That's exceptional work." For the first time, he saw Riley's professional composure crack slightly, a flash of genuine pride and relief in her eyes. "Thank you, Marcus. That means a lot." The rest of the team knocked off at 7, exhausted but satisfied with the day's progress. Riley stayed behind, cleaning and organizing her tools with the same meticulous care she'd shown during the repair. "You don't have to do that," Marcus said. "The night shift will clean up." "I like my workspace organized," Riley said. "Old habit from the military." "You served?" Marcus asked, surprised. 4 years Air Force, Riley said. "Crew chief on C-17s at McCord Field, actually, right here in Washington. That's where I got my initial training. The Air Force taught me that in aviation, 99% perfect is 100% failure." Marcus understood that philosophy. In aircraft maintenance, there was no room for almost right. "Why'd you leave?" "Wanted more freedom to specialize," Riley said. "Military's great for training, but you go where they send you, work on what they assign you. I wanted to choose my path." She finished organizing her tools and stood, wiping her hands. "Plus, the pay's better on the outside." Marcus laughed. "Can't argue with that." He hesitated, then said, "Riley, I owe you an apology." "You don't." "I do," Marcus insisted. "What I said yesterday morning was unprofessional. I judged you without knowing anything about your skills or experience. I made assumptions based on stupid biases I didn't even realize I had." Riley was quiet for a moment. "Do you know why I transferred from San Diego?" Marcus shook his head. "My supervisor there, great guy, really supportive. He recommended me for a lead mechanic position. I was excited, thought I'd earned it. But when it came time for the promotion, they gave it to someone else. A guy with less experience, fewer certifications, and a mediocre work record." She met Marcus's eyes. "When I asked why, I got a bunch of vague answers about cultural fit and leadership presence. What they meant was that he looked the part and I didn't." "That's illegal, probably," Riley finished. "Definitely unfair, but also reality. So I transferred here hoping for a fresh start, and then yesterday morning..." She trailed off. "I did exactly the same thing," Marcus said quietly. "I'm sorry, Riley. Genuinely sorry." "Apology accepted," Riley said. "But here's the thing, Marcus. I don't want special treatment. I don't want you to give me a chance because you feel guilty. I want to earn my place through my work. Today was a start. But I need you to judge me the same way you judge Jake, Sarah, and David, based on what I do, not who I am." "Fair enough," Marcus said. "And for what it's worth, based on what you did today, you're exactly the kind of mechanic I want on my team." Riley smiled. A real smile this time, warm and genuine. "Then let's keep proving that tomorrow." As she left the hangar, Marcus stood alone with the partially reassembled engine. He thought about his daughter, Annie, who was studying mechanical engineering at the University of Washington. He thought about all the times he'd encouraged her to pursue her dreams, to ignore anyone who said she couldn't do something because she was a woman. And then he thought about how quickly he'd done exactly that to Riley. He pulled out his phone and called his wife, Jennifer. "Hey, honey," she answered. "Working late again?" "Just finished." "Listen, I need to tell you about something that happened. I think I've been part of the problem, and I didn't even realize it." "What problem?" Jennifer asked, concerned. "The one where talented people don't get chances because of who they are instead of what they can do." He told her about Riley, about his initial reaction, about everything that had happened over the past 2 days. Jennifer listened without interrupting, and when he finished, she was quiet for a moment. "I'm proud of you," she finally said. "For being a jerk?" "For recognizing it and doing better," Jennifer said. "That's growth, Marcus. That's what matters. Now come home. I'll heat up dinner." Marcus locked up the hangar and drove home through the Seattle drizzle, the city lights blurred by rain on the windshield. Tomorrow, they'd continue the overhaul. Tomorrow, Riley would prove herself again, because that's what she did. Prove herself over and over in ways that men like Jake or David never had to. And tomorrow, Marcus thought, he'd work on being the kind of supervisor who made that unnecessary. The kind who judge people by their skills, not their superficial characteristics. The kind who gave chances instead of making assumptions. It was, he realized, long overdue. The next 5 days blurred together in a marathon of work. The Delta engine overhaul consumed every waking hour, and the pressure mounted with each passing day. Corporate had moved up the deadline. The aircraft needed to return to service 48 hours earlier than originally planned to cover an unexpected maintenance grounding in the United Fleet. Riley became an integral part of the team. She worked longer hours than anyone, arriving before dawn and staying past midnight. Her apartment was a 20-minute drive from the hangar, and Marcus often saw her car in the parking lot when he arrived at 5:30 a.m. "Doesn't she ever sleep?" David asked one morning, watching Riley already deep into reassembling the high-pressure turbine section. "I'm starting to wonder," Marcus admitted, but the compressed timeline was taking its toll on everyone. Tempers grew short, small problems became major frustrations. On day 6, Jake snapped at Sarah over a missing torque wrench. Sarah fired back about Jake's habit of leaving tools scattered across the workbench. The tension in the hangar was thick enough to cut with a knife. Riley stayed out of the interpersonal conflicts, keeping her head down and focusing on the work. But Marcus noticed the strain in her face, the dark circles under her eyes, the way her hands occasionally trembled from exhaustion. "Patterson, take a break," Marcus ordered during the afternoon shift. "I'm fine," Riley said, not looking up from the turbine blade she was measuring. "That wasn't a suggestion," Marcus said. "Break room, 20 minutes. That's an order." Riley set down her tools and walked to the break room without argument. Marcus followed a few minutes later and found her sitting at the battered table, staring at a cup of coffee she hadn't touched. "You're running yourself into the ground," Marcus said, sitting across from her. "We're behind schedule," Riley said. "Everyone's working overtime. Everyone else has been doing this for years. They know how to pace themselves. You're trying to prove something." "I have to," Riley said quietly. "If I'm just as good as the guys, then I'm not good enough. I have to be better, faster, more reliable. Otherwise—" She trailed off. "Otherwise, people like me will say you can't handle it," Marcus finished. "Riley, you've proven yourself 10 times over this week. You don't have to kill yourself to earn respect." "Don't I?" Riley looked at him directly. "Be honest, Marcus. If I'd made the same mistake you made with those clearance measurements, would you have given me another chance? Or would that have confirmed everything you suspected about me not belonging here?" Marcus wanted to protest, to say she was wrong. But he couldn't, because she was right, and they both knew it. "I'm trying to do better," he said instead. "I know," Riley said, her voice softer, "and I appreciate that. But I'm not just working for you. I'm working for every woman who'll come after me, every person who'll be judged before they're given a chance. If I fail, it doesn't just reflect on me. It reflects on all of them." "That's not fair," Marcus said. "That's too much weight for one person to carry." "Fair doesn't matter," Riley said. She picked up her coffee, finally taking a sip. "Reality does. And the reality is that I'm going to be judged differently. So I work differently, harder, better, until it's impossible to deny that I belong here." Before Marcus could respond, Jake appeared in the doorway, his face grim. "Boss, we've got a problem." They hurried back to the main hangar floor. Jake led them to the high-pressure compressor section, where Sarah stood looking at a component with a frown. "We've got blade creep," Sarah said, pointing to minute measurements on her digital gauge. "The turbine blades have elongated beyond specification. It's subtle. We're talking about 0.005 inches, but it's outside tolerance." Marcus felt his stomach drop. Blade creep was caused by repeated thermal cycling and centrifugal forces during engine operation. It meant the blades had been subjected to more stress than normal during the engine's service life, possibly from the aircraft flying in more demanding conditions than usual. "How many blades?" Marcus asked. 8, Sarah said, "all on the 7th stage rotor. Replacement blades will take 3 days to arrive," Jake said grimly. "We don't have 3 days." Marcus pulled out his phone, checking the parts inventory. Jake was right. They'd have to special order the blades from the manufacturer. The deadline was now impossible to meet. "Wait," Riley said. She was studying the measurements on Sarah's gauge, her brow furrowed. "How far outside tolerance are we talking?" .005 inches, Sarah repeated. Spec allows .003 maximum growth. And this is a CFM56 7B27, scheduled for medium haul routes, mostly domestic flights, right? Riley asked. Right, Marcus confirmed. Why? Riley pulled out her tablet, rapidly scrolling through technical documents. There's a revised tolerance specification in Service Bulletin CFM56 SB72 10089, issued 6 months ago. The FAA approved expanded tolerances for engines in specific service profiles. She found the document and turned the tablet so they could see. For domestic medium-haul operations below 35,000 hours total time, the acceptable blade creep tolerance is .006 inches. Marcus leaned in, reading the service bulletin carefully. Riley was right. The revised specification would put them back within tolerance, but only if the engine met all the qualifying criteria. What's the total time on this engine? Marcus asked. Jake checked the logbook. 32,000 hours. Service profile? Riley asked. Domestic medium haul, Sarah confirmed, checking the aircraft records. Mostly West Coast routes, some transcontinental. Nothing extended over water, nothing high altitude. Then we qualify, Riley said. We can use the revised spec. If the FAA inspector agrees, Marcus said slowly. He pulled out his phone and dialed Tom Davidson. Tom, I need you to contact our FAA liaison. We've got a situation with the Delta overhaul, and we need approval to use a revised service bulletin tolerance specification. It's time critical. While they waited for approval, work continued on other parts of the engine. The tension in the hangar was palpable. If the FAA rejected the revised specification, they'd miss the deadline by days, not hours. The financial penalty for late delivery was substantial, and the damage to Cascade Aviation's reputation would be worse. 2 hours later, Tom appeared with a man in his 50s wearing a windbreaker with FAA insignia. This is Inspector Robert Chen, Tom said. No relation, he added, nodding at Marcus. Inspector Chen examined the measurements, reviewed the service bulletin, and studied the engine logbook with meticulous care. Everyone waited in tense silence. The measurements are documented correctly, Inspector Chen finally said. The engine meets all qualifying criteria for the revised specification. However, he looked at Riley. Service Bulletin CFM56 SB72 10089 requires additional inspection procedures for engines operating under the expanded tolerance. Did you complete the supplemental eddy current testing on the blade routes? Riley's face went pale. No, sir. I didn't realize that was required. Marcus felt his heart sink. The supplemental testing would take hours they didn't have. The requirement is in Appendix C of the Service Bulletin, Inspector Chen said, pulling it up on his tablet. Right here. I saw Appendix B about the measurement procedures, Riley said quietly. I didn't read far enough. That's my mistake. Marcus watched Riley's shoulders slump slightly. After all her hard work, all her meticulous attention to detail, she'd made an oversight that could cost them everything. How long for the eddy current testing? Marcus asked. 4 hours minimum, Sarah said. Possibly 6, depending on what we find. Marcus checked his watch. It was 3 p.m. The deadline was tomorrow at 10 a.m. They'd been planning to finish final assembly tonight and run test cell verification in the morning. Now they'd have to do the eddy current testing first, which would push final assembly to late evening, leaving almost no time for testing. We'll do it, Marcus said. Sarah, set up the eddy current equipment. Riley, you'll assist her. You need to learn the procedure anyway. Jake, David, let's get everything else buttoned up so we're ready for final assembly the moment the inspection clears. Boss, Jake said quietly, even if we work all night, we're cutting it razor thin. Then we work all night, Marcus said firmly. We've come too far to quit now. Inspector Chen nodded approvingly. I'll be here to witness the inspection and verify the results. If everything checks out, I'll sign off on the revised specification. The team sprang into action. Sarah set up the eddy current testing equipment while Riley helped prepare the turbine blades for inspection. Marcus coordinated the final assembly preparations with Jake and David, trying to streamline every step to save precious minutes. At 6 p.m., the eddy current testing began. Sarah guided Riley through the procedure, moving the sensor probe carefully over each blade root, watching the oscilloscope for any indication of cracks or subsurface defects. Inspector Chen observed every step, occasionally asking questions to verify they were following the correct procedure. "Clear on blade 1, Sarah announced. "Clear on blade 2, Riley echoed. One by one they tested each blade. The process was excruciatingly slow, each blade taking 30 minutes. Marcus forced himself to focus on his own work, trusting Sarah and Riley to handle the inspection, but he kept glancing over at their progress. At midnight, they were only halfway through. "Boss," Jake said quietly, "we should call it. Get some sleep, come back at 5 a.m., finish then." "If we stop now, we'll never make the deadline," Marcus said. "If we keep going on no sleep, we'll make mistakes," Jake countered. "Dangerous mistakes." Marcus knew Jake was right. Fatigue led to errors, and errors in aircraft maintenance could be fatal. But stopping meant admitting defeat, missing the deadline, accepting failure. "Let me make a suggestion," Inspector Chen said, overhearing their conversation. "Rotate shifts. Half the team sleeps for 4 hours, while the other half continues working. Then switch. You'll maintain productivity while giving everyone some rest." It was a compromise, but a smart one. Marcus nodded. "Jake, David, hit the break room. There are cots in the back. Sarah, Riley, and I will keep going. We'll wake you at 4 a.m. Jake and David didn't argue, heading for the break room. Marcus joined Sarah and Riley at the inspection station. "Show me what to do," he said to Sarah. "Let's get this done." With 3 people working in careful rotation, the pace picked up. Sarah handled the probe, Riley monitored the oscilloscope readings, and Marcus documented each result for the inspection records. Inspector Chen watched, occasionally nodding approval. By 4 a.m., they'd completed the eddy current testing. All 8 blades passed inspection, no cracks, no defects. Inspector Chen reviewed the documentation and signed off on the use of the revised specification. "You're good to proceed with final assembly," he said. "I'll be back at 9 a.m. for the final inspection." Jake and David returned, bleary-eyed but rested. Marcus, Sarah, and Riley took their turn in the break room. Marcus lay down on one of the cots, his body aching with exhaustion, and immediately fell into a deep sleep. What felt like seconds later, someone was shaking his shoulder. "Boss, it's 8 a.m., Jake said. "Time to finish this." Marcus forced himself awake, splashed water on his face, and returned to the hangar floor. The engine was nearly complete. Jake and David had made impressive progress during the night. Riley and Sarah arrived moments later, looking as exhausted as Marcus felt. "Final assembly," Marcus said. "Let's do this right." They worked with the focused intensity of people who knew they were racing against an impossible deadline. Each component had to be installed in perfect sequence, each bolt torqued to exact specification, each connection verified and documented. There was no room for error, no time for hesitation. At 9:30, Inspector Chen arrived. The engine was assembled, mounted on its test stand, ready for verification, but they still needed to run the test cell sequence, a 2-hour process. "We're not going to make it," Sarah said quietly. "Yes, we are," Riley said firmly. "We start the test now, we finish at 11:30. We're 30 minutes late, but we can argue for an extension based on the additional inspection requirements." Marcus looked at his team, exhausted, determined, professional. Then he looked at the engine they'd rebuilt together, the result of hundreds of hours of skilled work. "Start the test," he said. They fired up the engine in the test cell, the massive turbofan spinning to life with a gradually building roar that shook the entire hangar. The test sequence ran automatically, bringing the engine through its entire operational envelope: idle, cruise, full power, shutdown, restart. Every parameter had to fall within specification. One failure meant starting over. The minutes crawled by with agonizing slowness. Temperature readings, pressure ratios, vibration levels, fuel flow rates, all monitored and recorded automatically while the team watched the displays with nervous intensity. At 11:15, the test sequence completed. Every parameter was perfect. The engine had passed. Inspector Chen reviewed the test data with meticulous care, then finally signed the approval paperwork. "Engine is certified for return to service," he said. "Outstanding work, team." Marcus felt a wave of relief so intense it made his knees weak. They'd done it. Against all odds, through every obstacle, they'd completed the overhaul on time, or close enough that he could argue the delay. "We couldn't have done this without you," Marcus said to Riley. "The revised spec, the overnight testing, you made this happen." "We all made it happen," Riley said, but she was smiling. "This is what a team does." Tom Davidson arrived, beaming. "Corporate's on the phone. They heard about the revised spec situation. They want to commend the team for professional excellence under pressure." He looked directly at Riley, especially the mechanic who identified the solution. As the team began the process of preparing the engine for reinstallation, Marcus pulled Riley aside. "I was wrong about you," he said simply. "Not just wrong. Completely, totally, embarrassingly wrong. You didn't just handle the jet engine, you saved the entire project." Riley met his eyes, and for the first time since he'd met her, she let her guard down completely. He saw the exhaustion there, yes, but also satisfaction, pride, and something else, acceptance. "Thank you," she said, "for giving me the chance to prove it." "Thank you for making me see my own blind spots," Marcus replied. "I've got a lot to learn, apparently." "We all do," Riley said. "That's what makes this job interesting." See, as they walked back to rejoin the team, Marcus thought about how close he'd come to missing this. Missing the opportunity to work with someone brilliant, missing the chance to grow beyond his assumptions, missing the lesson that excellence has nothing to do with superficial characteristics and everything to do with skill, dedication, and heart. He'd told Riley she couldn't handle a jet engine. She'd proven him spectacularly, impossibly wrong. And in doing so, she'd made him a better supervisor, a better engineer, and a better person. 3 months later, winter had arrived in full force. Snow fell on Boeing Field, coating the runways and hangars in white. Inside Hangar 7, the heat was cranked up against the December cold, and the familiar smell of jet fuel and metal filled the air. Marcus stood in Tom Davidson's office, reviewing the quarterly performance reports. The Delta engine overhaul had been a turning point for the facility. Their success had led to 3 more major contracts, and Cascade Aviation Services was now being considered for exclusive maintenance agreements with 2 major airlines. "Your team's productivity is up 18%, Tom said, pointing to the graphs. "Quality metrics are at an all-time high. Error rates are down." "What changed?" Marcus glanced out the window at the hangar floor, where Riley was training 2 new mechanics on turbine blade inspection procedures. She'd become the go-to person for complex problems, the mechanic everyone wanted on their team for difficult jobs. "Better hiring," Marcus said simply, "focusing on skills instead of superficial qualifications." "Speaking of which," Tom said, pulling out a file, "I've got something to discuss with you. Corporate wants to expand operations, add a 2nd hangar, new equipment, specialize in wide-body aircraft overhauls. It's a major investment, but the profit potential is substantial." "Sounds good," Marcus said. "What's the timeline?" 18 months until the new hangar is operational," Tom said. "But we need to start building the team now. Corporate wants to create a new supervisor position to handle the expansion." He slid the file across the desk to Marcus. "They want you to recommend someone." Marcus opened the file and saw what Tom was really asking. This wasn't just about recommending someone, it was about choosing his own replacement as primary supervisor so he could move up to oversee both hangar operations. "This is a promotion for you," Tom said. "Facilities manager, 20% pay increase, broader responsibilities." But you'd need to hand off your current team to someone else, someone you trust to maintain the standards you've built. Marcus thought about his team, Jake with his decades of experience, Sarah with her diagnostic brilliance, David with his welding artistry. They were all capable, all qualified, but there was only one name on his mind. Riley Patterson, he said. Tom raised an eyebrow. She's been here less than 4 months. She's been working on aircraft for 9 years, Marcus corrected. She has the technical knowledge, the leadership skills, and the work ethic. More importantly, she has the respect of the team. When people have questions, they ask Riley. When there's a problem, Riley finds the solution. She's the obvious choice. She's also the youngest person on the team by at least a decade, Tom pointed out. Some of the older mechanics might resent taking orders from someone her age. Like Jake, who's been telling me for the past month that Riley should be leading more projects, Marcus said. Or Sarah, who literally told me last week that Riley's the best mechanic she's ever worked with. The team already follows her lead. Making it official just recognizes what's already happening. Tom was quiet for a moment, studying Marcus's face. This is about more than just her qualifications, isn't it? It's exactly about her qualifications, Marcus said firmly. Riley is the best choice for the job based on her skills, her performance, and her potential. Yes, I made assumptions about her when she first arrived. Yes, I was wrong. But this recommendation isn't about correcting past mistakes. It's about recognizing present excellence. Corporate will want to interview other candidates, Tom warned. Let them, Marcus said. Riley will shine in any interview. Her work speaks for itself. Tom nodded slowly. Okay, I'll submit the recommendation. But Marcus, you're putting your own reputation on the line here. If she fails, it reflects on your judgment. She won't fail, Marcus said with absolute confidence. But if she does, that's on me. I'm willing to take that risk. Later that afternoon, Marcus called Riley into his office. She arrived looking curious and slightly concerned. Being called into the supervisor's office usually meant either very good news or very bad news. Sit down, Marcus said, gesturing to the chair across from his desk. Riley sat, her posture professional but relaxed. She'd grown more comfortable over the past months, her initial defensive tension replaced by quiet confidence. I'm being promoted, Marcus said without preamble. Facilities manager, overseeing both hangars, which means my current position will be open. Riley's eyes widened slightly. Congratulations, you deserve it. Thank you, Marcus said. Now here's the question. Who should replace me as primary supervisor? Riley thought for a moment. Jake's the obvious choice. He has the most experience, and everyone respects him. Jake's 64, Marcus said. He's planning to retire in 3 years. We need someone who can grow with the facility, who can lead for the next decade or more. Then Sarah, Riley suggested. She's brilliant, organized. She's also told me 5 times that she hates administrative work and never wants to be in management, Marcus interrupted. Try again. Riley fell silent, and Marcus saw the moment when understanding dawned. Her expression shifted from confusion to surprise to something that looked like fear. Me, she said quietly. You, Marcus confirmed. I'm recommending you for the position. Corporate will conduct interviews, there's a formal process, but I'm putting your name forward as my first choice. Marcus, I've only been here 3 months, Riley protested. There are mechanics in this facility with 20 years of experience. They're not going to want to work for someone my age. Your age is irrelevant, Marcus said firmly. Your performance isn't. Riley, in 3 months, you've caught critical errors, solved complex problems, trained new mechanics, and earned the respect of everyone in this hangar. When I asked Jake last week who he thought should be the next supervisor, you know what he said? Riley shook her head. He said, Patterson. She's got the brains and the work ethic, and she gives a damn about doing things right. That's what matters. Marcus leaned forward. This isn't charity. This isn't me trying to make up for being an ass when you first arrived. This is me recognizing that you're the best person for the job. What if I'm not ready? Riley asked, and Marcus heard the vulnerability in her voice. Then you'll learn, just like I did, Marcus said, just like everyone does. But I think you're more ready than you realize. You've been leading this team informally for weeks. Making it official just gives you the authority to match the responsibility you're already carrying. Riley was quiet for a long moment, staring at her hands. When she looked up, her eyes were bright with emotion she was fighting to control. 3 months ago, you told me I couldn't handle a jet engine, she said, her voice thick. Now you're recommending me to run an entire maintenance facility. 3 months ago, I was an idiot, Marcus said bluntly. Thankfully, you proved me wrong and taught me something in the process. Now it's your turn. Take the interview, show corporate what you can do, and then take this team to the next level. Riley stopped, swallowed hard. Thank you. I don't know what else to say. Say you'll do it, Marcus prompted. Riley straightened her shoulders, and Marcus saw the determination return to her eyes, that same fierce competence he'd first witnessed when she'd corrected his measurement errors. I'll do it, she said. I'll make you proud. You already have, Marcus said. Now go tell the team before the rumor mill gets going. Riley left the office, and Marcus watched through the window as she walked back onto the hangar floor. Sarah spotted her first, said something that made Riley laugh, and then they were both heading toward Jake and David, who were working on a wing inspection. Marcus's phone rang. It was his wife, Jennifer. How'd she take it? Jennifer asked without preamble. How did you know I was talking to her today? Marcus asked, surprised. Because you've been agonizing about this for a week, Jennifer said with amusement. So, what did she say? She's in, Marcus said. Scared, I think, but determined. Good, Jennifer said. She'll be great. You know Annie wants to meet her, right? She keeps asking when you're going to invite the badass mechanic who proved you wrong over for dinner. Marcus laughed. Tell Annie we'll arrange something. I think she and Riley would get along well. Speaking of which, Annie called earlier, Jennifer said. She got her internship, the one at SpaceX she applied for. They want her to work on rocket engine development. Marcus felt a surge of pride. That's incredible. I'm so proud of her. She said to tell you that she's going to handle those rocket engines, whether anyone thinks she can or not, Jennifer said with a smile in her voice. I think you've influenced her more than you realize. After they hung up, Marcus sat alone in his office, thinking about the strange journey of the past 3 months. He thought about his initial reaction to Riley, about the assumptions he'd made so quickly and confidently. He thought about how close he'd come to missing out on working with someone exceptional. Most of all, he thought about the lessons she'd taught him, not just about judging people fairly, but about the cost of those judgments. Every time someone like Riley was dismissed or underestimated, talent was wasted, potential was squandered, and progress was delayed.